Hello, my name is Quentin Gooden. I hope you're having a good day today. I have been the owner of this 1991 Mazda MX-5 Miata for 5 years, and I've learned so many things about this vehicle. Let's talk about it. So, one of the first things I learned about these vehicles when I first got it was that these finish panels are very, very brittle and they're pretty much garbage at this point. This one was in very bad condition, and over the years, it completely fell apart. Now, I scoured the internet trying to find a replacement one in silver, just like this one, and I was pretty much feeling hopeless. Now, Mas Miata sells a unpainted finish panel for about 400, 300 bucks, unpainted, and I would have just had to get it paint managed to this vehicle right here. But I ended up finding this one on eBay off of a wrecked Miata, and as you can see, it's actually in pretty good condition. These aren't that hard to put on at all. It probably took me about 20 minutes to put this one on, and it's definitely made the car look a lot better. I got this one for about the same price as the Mas Miata unpainted one, so I think it was a pretty good deal. Hopefully it actually lasts a good bit. So the next thing that I learned about these vehicles is that if you need a top, it is actually going to be pretty hard to find someone that can do it for you. You can do it yourself, but in all honesty, from the videos I've seen, it is a pain in the butt. So I'm not going to do that. But when I first got this car had a top with a real glass window in the back, and the window was pretty much being held on by flex tape. One day we had a really bad storm, and the window came out and it pretty much broke into a million pieces. Now, when I first got this car, the top was bad, and it actually took me a long time to find someone who can actually do it. Now, the places that I did find, they wanted $2,000 to replace the top, and be honest, that's way more. That's actually more than what I bought this car for. Now, luckily for me, I found someone that actually works on these things for a living, and he actually doesn't charge that much to replace these tops. So I bought the first top for about 400 bucks, and then he replaced it for 450. Now I recently just got a new top because that last top failed because it was a cheap Amazon one. But this with the rain rail was about 500 bucks, and he charged me 600 bucks to replace it. So now I got a new top, I got a zippered window in the back, and pretty much the top situation on this car has been amazing ever since. I'm going to be honest. We're about to get underneath the hood for all the things I've learned, and this is going to be a long one. Now, another thing that I learned early into my experience is that the slave and clutch master cylinders have a problem with these vehicles. Now, the clutch master cylinder went out within like 3 months of me owning the car. And I was actually in a panic to try to get back home because I pretty much couldn't use my clutch at all. So I replaced the clutch master cylinder for about 20 bucks. And I also replaced the slave master cylinder, and it's back there, for about 20 bucks as well. Now, that thing was actually pretty garbage, so I bought it from AutoZone, and ever since I put it in, it was leaking really bad. Now, recently, I actually just replaced this one again, so I can actually be able to autocross without leaking everywhere. And it still leaks a little bit after I bought it from a better source. So yeah, I also heard that the clutch master and slave master cylinders was a big problem with these things, but yeah, it's true. Another thing that I learned about this engine is that whenever you're low on oil, you'll get some really bad lifter tick on startup. And that seems to be an indicator for a lot of people with these things on when it's time to change the oil. I usually change my oil about 3,000 miles, and I usually use Mobile One 1030 or 1040. Another thing I've experienced with this thing is it definitely loves the leak coolant. I have had so many coolant issues with this car. I just finally got rid of the last of the coolant issues. So the first thing that went out was the radiator. This is about 4 months into my ownership with this vehicle. Now I replaced that, and ever since then I had a coolant smell. Now pretty much everything was okay until about a year ago, and the hose that's underneath there, apparently that one goes out pretty often. That blew, and I replaced that at work. I barely was able to, and pretty much ever since then I went ahead and got all the major coolant hoses replaced. I got this one, I got the one underneath the radiator, pretty much all the major ones, the heater core hoses and all that. And recently, these hoses right here, the accessory hoses, these are usually the forgotten ones. Those pretty much went bad as well. Really, the one way in the bottom over there, if you can see it, that one started leaking bad, and I was pretty much having to fill this thing up pretty much every time I drove it. Now, I didn't let it go on for long. It was probably like a week before I finally took it to the shop. I tried to do it myself, but they have these clamps, right? The hose clamps, and the bottom one was like facing towards the bottom, and I couldn't even get to it. So I said, screw it. But pretty much all the coolant problems with this car is done. It's got the new hoses, it's got a new radiator, it's got a new water pump. I'll talk about that later. And a new coolant temperature sensor that I threw on there too. Speaking of the water pump, a couple of years ago, I went ahead and had the timing belt replaced. Now, this is actually the infamous short nose crank 1.6. But luckily for me, the crank key was still good, and I didn't have to deal with any of those problems with that. Now, I did the timing belt. I don't remember what kind of timing belt I got. I think it was a Gates timing belt. I also got a water pump done, and I also had the front seal replaced while it was in there as well. I had that done by the Miata specialist, of course, and I think it was a little less than $1,000 with without parts to do, but pretty much it's been good ever since then. I don't have to worry about the water pump on this. I put about 8,000, almost 10,000 miles on it since I've had that stuff replaced, and this car's been running good ever since. All right, guys, for the last thing underneath the hood, I know you guys are tired of looking at this big block 1.6, but if you buy one of these Miatas and it doesn't have AC, like the AC doesn't work, it doesn't hurt to check to see if your AC is actually broken. Now, I said I took this car to the shop to have these hoses replaced, and I was planning on getting the AC working on this thing in this summer. But I asked them if they could take a look at it and see what's going on with it. So what they did was they put an R134 kit on here, and they just filled it up with refrigerant. It works. Just that simple. So if you do end up getting one of these and the AC doesn't work, it doesn't hurt to just get a little inspection to see what might be going on with it, because it could just be an easy fix. Getting the AC working on this thing costed me less than $200, and I'll be honest, it's about the best $200 I ever spent on this car. Now we're going to stay on the topic of the drivetrain. We're going to go in here, we're going to talk about the transmission. So, one thing you guys should know is that it is actually really, really easy to rebuild the shifter on these things. So, before I started driving this car more, before I bought the Corvette, this thing actually had a really bad problem with having a loose shifter. It was really bad. But I bought the shifter rebuild kit from Miata, and I replaced it in like I replaced everything in about 30 minutes, and that was while I was filming. It was actually really easy. And if you guys remember, I live in an apartment, so I can pretty much only do like easy work over there. And it only took me about 30 minutes to do, as I said before, but it's actually really easy. It's not like the Hondas where you have to get underneath the car and deal with all the linkages and all that. The transmission is pretty much just bottom in the bottom right here, and you just take everything out, fill it up with some gear fluid, and you're pretty much done. So recently I also changed the transmission fluid out on this thing, and it is really nice. I have no issue shifting into any of the gears. Matter of fact, before I changed the transmission fluid out, I actually had a really hard time getting into reverse gear. Now, I thought it was low and that was what was causing it, but it wasn't. I guess the transmission fluid was old. So I actually ended up going with the Ford synthetic manual transmission fluid. It seems to be the go-to for a lot of Mazda people, and they also recommend the Redline transmission fluid. I ended up going with the Ford transmission fluid because I work at a Ford dealership, so I was able to just go ahead and grab that fluid. And be honest, ever since I put that transmission fluid in, this car has been a dream to shift the gears on. One thing I learned about this vehicle is that interior work is very easy to do on this car compared to a lot of other cars I've dealt with. I replaced this door panel pretty easily. Now, this is one that's supposed to be for a crank window car, but I got this from eBay for like 70 bucks, so it's whatever. It does come with this nice door pocket, which my original ones did not come with the door pocket. So it's really nice. I put this door pull handle on here to make it a lot easier, so I don't have to have that, well, pretty much this pull handle right here robbing me of room, because I am a bigger guy, but I do fit in this car pretty well. I've had the headrest speakers. I replaced that. I got some speakers off of, I think eBay for about 100 bucks, and it's definitely made the interior audio quality sound a lot better than what it did. Shifters are also really easy to deal with on this car. Matter of fact, I have two of them inside my glove box right now. I got this Jazz Performance shifter that I bought from Mazda Miata, and I have this wooden shifter that I bought from Etsy. So pretty much how I'm feeling is whatever I'll put on. So right now I just got the original shifter in there because I really do like the way it feels. All these shifters feel good. And I also found out that there's also a bunch of nice seat covers on Carbon Miata website, which I am going to replace. Well, not replace, but I'm going to cover these up pretty soon. Probably like at least by the end of this year. I do want to get this car painted before then, though. One last thing that I've learned about the interior on this car is that these gauge hoods, they do like to crack. Mine started to crack after a while, and I went ahead and bought this one off of Amazon. It actually fits pretty well, considering that it's like $100 cheaper than the no, I don't think it was $100 cheaper. I think it was like $70 cheaper than the one from Mazda Miata, and it fits pretty good. I had no trouble installing it at all. Now, this one is actually pretty subjective. I know people have different tastes for different exhausts. Some people like it quiet, some people like it extremely loud. But I do have to recommend the Borla Pro XS muffler. Now, these mufflers are not expensive at all. I think I spent about $100 on it, $150 to have it welded on. Now, I do want to get a real exhaust tip, get rid of this fence post thing right here, but it sounds really good. Like, it's quiet whenever you start it up, and then it gets loud as you go up the rev as you go up in the rev range. Take a listen. I've of all the exhaust setups I've heard on these things, this is really my favorite. It gives you that old school roadster sound that you get from all the English sports cars of the 70s, and I really like the way it sounds. As you can hear, it's pretty quiet, so the neighbors don't get angry whenever they see me driving by, unless I'm going at a high rate of speed. But yeah, this car has really been very nice to own, and it's been my favorite car that I've ever owned. I will never get rid of this car, in all honesty. Now there's a bunch of things that I do plan on with this car. I do want to get it painted. I want to get those wheels polished, and pretty much everything's good. I just did an alignment on it yesterday, and it drives great. I do want to get a new steering wheel. I want to get the steering wheel that's kind of like this, but has wood accents. I think that'll look good, and I'll also be able to keep my airbag. And crazy enough, I've owned this car for 5 years, and I've put almost about 30,000, almost 40,000 miles on it since I bought it, and I've never had a check engine light, ever. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, share, and subscribe if you want to see some more Miata or Civic content, and I'll see you guys next time.